On March 23, 1860, Ann Bilansky met her fate on the gallows, becoming the first and only woman to be legally executed in the state of Minnesota. Her trial and subsequent execution for the alleged poisoning of her husband remain one of the most controversial legal cases in the state's history, raising questions about circumstantial evidence, gender bias, and the fairness of 19th-century criminal justice. Ann Bilansky, a woman in her 40s, lived in St. Paul, Minnesota, with her second husband, Stanislaus Bilansky, a Polish immigrant. Their marriage was reportedly troubled, and Ann was said to have grown distant from her husband. Suspicion arose when Stanislaus fell ill and died in March 1859 under mysterious circumstances. At the time, his symptoms were consistent with arsenic poisoning, prompting an autopsy. The forensic examination revealed traces of arsenic in his stomach, leading to Ann Bilansky's arrest on charges of murder. Ann Bilansky's trial began in September 1859 and was highly publicized. The prosecution argued that she had poisoned her husband to pursue an affair with another man, her nephew-in-law, John Walker. Although the evidence was largely circumstantial, relying on witness testimonies and the discovery of arsenic in Ann's home, the jury found her guilty of first-degree murder. The lack of direct evidence and the reliance on assumptions about Ann's personal life cast doubt on the fairness of the trial. On October 3, 1859, the court sentenced Ann Bilansky to death by hanging. An appeal was quickly filed, but the Minnesota Supreme Court upheld the conviction. Governor Alexander Ramsey declined to grant clemency, sealing her fate. On the morning of March 23, 1860, Ann Bilansky was led to the gallows in St. Paul. She maintained her innocence to the very end, reportedly stating, "I am innocent of this charge." A large crowd gathered to witness the execution, as was common in the era. Ann Bilansky was hanged at noon, and her body was buried in an unmarked grave. Her execution marked the first legal execution in Minnesota, and the only one of a woman in the state's history. The case remained a subject of debate, with many believing she had been convicted based on flimsy evidence and societal prejudices against women accused of crimes. Ann Bilansky's trial and execution remain one of the most debated cases in Minnesota's legal history. Some historians believe she may have been wrongly convicted due to the limited forensic techniques of the time and the societal perceptions of women in the mid-19th century. Her case was often cited in later discussions about the use of the death penalty, particularly for women. In 1911, Minnesota abolished the death penalty, making Bilansky one of the last individuals executed in the state. Her case continues to be studied as an example of the potential failings of the justice system and the dangers of capital punishment based on circumstantial evidence. Though over a century has passed since her execution, Ann Bilansky's story remains a powerful reminder of the complexities of justice, gender biases, and the irreversible consequences of the death penalty.